Thank you for the opportunity to remove the mask and breathe. I want to share with you an interesting bit of history that this shul and myself have with not just reproductive rights, but with the whole concern of abortion, which is one of the hottest topics constantly in the political world. Many, many years ago, I was invited along with another 13 or 14 locals to meet with Newt Gingrich, who was going to be, because of whatever the government shuffling locally, was going to become the congressman from our district, which is District 6. We were right. Okay, good. The 6th District. And so we met with Congressman Gingrich, and we were asked to ask him questions and so on. He wanted to get a sense of what was going to be here in East Cobb. So I, of course, raised my hand and I asked him the following, or shared with him the following, and then I asked him a question. There was an actual episode in Tennessee, close to our meeting, where two men were fighting in a bar. One man hits a woman who is standing nearby who happens to be pregnant, and she miscarries. So I asked Gingrich, I said, "You're the judge, what would you try this man for?" And without hesitating, he said, "I would try him for murder, And I said, "That's interesting." And I said, "You are stricter than God." And he looked at me with a little puzzlement, and I said, "You know your Bible?" And he kind of shrugged a bit, and I said, "If you open your Bible to Exodus, chapter 21, verse 22, it speaks of an identical episode in which two men are fighting. Striving is the term used in the Bible's translation. And one of them hits a woman nearby, causing her fruit to depart. Again, the biblical term. And I asked Gingrich, I said, "What do you think the punishment was for this man who hit the woman who was pregnant, causing her to have a miscarriage?" And he again said, "Capital crime. He was stoned or he was hung." And I looked at him and I said, "Neither. Number one, it's not a capital crime. And what is the punishment?" Any of you can look it up in the Chumash today. It's in our reading today. And that is that a fine was assessed to see what the woman's diminished value was, because as a pregnant woman, she was worth more than she was without carrying. And that fine was to be given to who? Her husband. And he sat back, and I remember his words to this very day, and he said, "You know, I'm going to have to look into that." His office called our office, and a week or so later, we met here at Eitz Chaim in what was my 4th office back, where we met, Marty's space today. And we talked, and we had a very pleasant conversation. And he was very impressed with the notion of the Jewish view and the notion found within the Bible. And I explained to him this is the only verse in the entire Bible, from Genesis to Chronicles, that addresses the status of a fetus. We shook hands. I wrote him a little note in the book Jewish Literacy, gave it to him as a gift, and we parted ways. And then, as you know, the rest is history in terms of Gingrich and his career. But what I found interesting was, and I can't say for sure, but this past week I looked up Gingrich and his perception and the views that he has had over the years on abortion rights and on choice. And interestingly enough, his original view, as reported, was a very strict, tough one, as we might imagine from somebody on the far right. But as time passed, he was criticized by those in his party, criticized by those to his right, who said he was not enthusiastically zealous enough in condemning abortion rights and promoting pro-choice. and that he clearly came out supportive of abortion rights for those who have been raped, incest, the health of the woman, and so on. And if you look at that history, it is a departure from where he was originally. And I would like to think that perhaps the conversation that we had 50 feet from here and at the Federation building many, many years ago perhaps made a difference. And if you look and check out his record, there's very little he has done. He pushed a lot of stuff, but he really stayed away from the issue of pro-life and of choice. And again, perhaps we nudged history in a different direction because of the experience that we all had. My feeling is that he came to understand, as is the Jewish view, that human life begins at birth, not conception, not 40 days through, but at birth, and there is a clear, unequivocal foundation for that, not in liberal talks, but actually in the Torah, in the book of Exodus itself. And so what I'd like to do is simply conclude with the following. And what I'd like to do again is reaffirm the notion that Jewish tradition acknowledges that humanity begins, not potential humanity, but humanity begins at birth. And up until birth, Jewish tradition throughout its many centuries and millennia refers to what a woman is carrying as a vlad, as a fetus, never as a baby or as a human being. I conclude by quoting the following. I'm quoting myself here, by the way, so just want you to be aware of that. With sincere respect to the opinion of others, claiming conception as the moment of humanity, that a fetus is a human being is illogical. Some thoughts. Is there a coroner's inquest for a miscarriage? Does a pregnant woman get to deduct her fetus as a dependent for tax purposes? When do we give a name? Does the mother need a passport for her fetus when traveling? Does a fetus file a tax return? Would a pregnant woman be permitted to enter a theater showing a XXX movie? Does a fetus have a social security number? And can a pregnant woman drive in the HOV lane? Judaism, and I believe the message of authentic moral America, should be to promote choice. Choice is what we should celebrate in a free society, because with choice, those who want to deal with the issue of abortion, ultimately, of course, have a choice. And so, my friends, Judaism's wisdom and insights thousands of years ago are something that today we should celebrate and something we should be proud of. Freedom, democracy needs to have choice. I thank you for the opportunity to share these words, and we'll rejoin the masses at this time.